Well, we got a little bit off topic there, but welcome back to the Eana Mokri podcast, where we get off topic and talk for an hour. So I guess nothing has actually changed.
No.
Eana
Mokri, where off
so much
topic is
for
on
the New Year's
topic.
resolutions.
What is on topic? I don't.
Eana topic.
Oh no!
No.
Ow!
Don't reward this.
I can't help it.
Me and my girlfriend will always quote this line. It's like, don't laugh. You don't laugh for this.
Don't laugh.
This is sad.
Very sad.
I'm gonna start doing that now.
Aiwelangati kame, Mafrapo, and welcome to the Eana Mokri podcast. We are reconvening after a short break, and we're going to be kicking off what is more or less season 2 of the podcast. We're hoping to see more regular episodes in everyone's inboxes. As we draw closer to the official launch of the sequels and other related media, we're expecting to see way more Avatar news. To kick things off, we actually have a very jam-packed episode today. We got several things to talk about. The Avatar The Next Shadow comic, issue 1 has been out, with issue 2 coming in a couple of days on February 3rd. We had OmatiCon, which is a digital online Avatar meet that happened several weeks ago, organized by Kelutral. We got some news for the language from Paul Frommer. And as always, we're going to close off the episode with some Na'vi conversation and practice. I know I'm personally very rusty because it's been a while since I chatted in Na'vi with other folks, but we're going to do our best, and it's going to be practice for everybody. I can't do that alone, so along with me are my full band of co-hosts. We got Awe.
Kalt-e.
We got Eana.
Kalt-e.
Plumps is here.
Kalt-e frapor.
And as always, Willem.
Kalt-e.
And I'm Bamanik. To kick things off, we're going to start with the Avatar The Next Shadow comic, mostly because this is kind of like the biggest Avatar thing that has happened in a very long time. To provide a little background, Dark Horse Comics is running another miniseries set in the Avatar universe. This is Avatar The Next Shadow. It is set just after the events of the first film. So this is giving us new canon information continuing the story. Where Tsu'tey's path explored a side perspective from the events of the first film, most of the events that transpired were events that we were already aware of, and Tsu'tey's path just gave us some additional insights into developing other characters. However, The Next Shadow seems to be there to bridge the gap between what we've already seen and what we will be seeing when the second film arrives at the end of 2022. So let's just start with just a round table thoughts and reactions and opinions on what we saw.
Honestly, it was pretty neat to see this. I think one of the most interesting parts of this one is how Jake is dealing with this transition psychologically is very, very interesting to me. I'm curious to see how that's going to evolve over the next few issues.
Yeah, I feel like that's a sort of underappreciated aspect of Avatar. I feel like that's something that stuck with me from the first film. I remember back when I first watched it, I thought the sort of central idea or through line for the story was the idea of Jake, being a paraplegic and then moving into this new and different body that is able to do, run around, very strong, very powerful, tall, and it's just like sort of that disassociation between the real life and the Avatar. I remember when the film was about to come out, there was a lot of interviews with the cast on various late shows, and there was this one with Sigourney Weaver, which ultimately inspired me to go see the film in the first place, because I think I've mentioned this before. I was a fan of Sigourney Weaver, so I saw Avatar, not like any other reason. Initially, I promise I'm an Avatar fan now. But anyway, in one of the interviews, she was talking about how, like, yeah, it's an important character choice on James Cameron's part that Sigourney Weaver smokes, because she doesn't care about her real body, because like her avatar body is something that she like cares so much more about, and sort of it was an analog in that regard, where Jake sort of explores this from a different angle, where he's coming at it from like, I am disabled in my body, but in this avatar body I am not. And so the fact that Next Shadow is kicking off this thread of like, hey, Jake is now like permanently in this new body, and his monologue at the start of the issue, where he's just like, you know, you hold an image of yourself in your head. It never totally lines up with how you look on the outside, but it's usually close enough until it's not at all. And I thought that was like, that's really dope.
It's like there are a couple things that can't come to mind. For example, phantom limb syndrome is a very similar thing, where like you have this vision of yourself, and then if it's changed, that causes weirdness, for lack of a better way to put it.
No, absolutely.
Another thing that comes to mind is, so I have probably dozens of hobbies at this point. Another group that I've been part of has a member who I actually spoke to about Avatar for a while. He had, I believe, bladder cancer and had to have, you know, a major operation. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about watching this movie and being, you know, it's that exact thing, that whole idea of he's not able to do everything he used to be able to do, but there's this kind of escape for that there's some parallel between that and how VR is starting to progress as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The context of the first Avatar was really when a lot of like online gaming spaces were really starting to evolve, and I can't help but feel like Avatar is like vaguely touching on the concept of like the artificial self versus the real self.
Oh, absolutely.
So one thing that, like, if I can just give my quick opinion, mm-hmm. I find it very interesting to see, because I basically never thought about it before, that there will still be conflict with humans on Pandora. I mean, I, as a naive, Avatar 1 viewer, I look at the end of the movie, the humans go away, well, few stay behind, but I mean, whatever. But I never actually thought about this dynamic that they will, of course, still need to maintain their home base to be able to survive. Mm-hmm. And I found that pretty interesting to see in this comic.
Yeah, that's going to be a very important part moving forward, but especially throughout the Next Shadow is, as they mentioned, is like Hell's Gate was a facility that was run by like, thousands of people, and their numbers were suddenly cut dramatically, but everyone still needs to keep the lights on. Everyone's like still needs to live there who was going to live there. And yeah, just with any society, there's a whole infrastructure together of people doing all kinds of jobs just to support the entire community. And when you suddenly cut the numbers, like suddenly a lot of things that you can take for granted or just assume are going to always work just suddenly stop working.
Yeah, I find it funny that, I mean, you even see this in Avatar 1, right? You see so many people walking in the background doing things. Mm-hmm. But I never really thought about the fact... I mean, I thought about the fact that, of course, yeah, they will have to probably abandon the base and you know what. But, I mean, yeah, of course, people who live there, like the people who stay on Pandora will have to, of course, survive. Mm-hmm. And they cannot do that in, like, the Na'vi contact, so they'll have to keep their own base, which I found interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
What I also found interesting was Jake's decision to relocate the OmatiCon next to the human base.
Yeah.
In hopes of getting the two people closer together, basically.
Yeah, so that was my big, like, the question I had in my head that I most wanted answered, like, as soon as possible when we heard about that the sequels are going to be taking place after the events of Avatar 1. I just wanted to know, where did they settle? Where did the OmatiCon people go? Because that was completely unresolved at the end of the first film. They had a war camp, but are they gonna live there, or what is what's their living situation?
I think
they're just
are they gonna live next to a sacred site like that, or exactly. I'm with you on that one, is what I'm saying. I was very curious about that too.
That, Home Tree was actually a very important site for them, because I also thought, why don't they just choose the next big tree?
I don't know about you, but I see a lot of trees. They can move.
Yeah, but
all right, Selfridge.
But that was also something that I found very interesting. But the reasoning is quite logical, in my opinion, just to improve or further improve the connections between humans and Na'vi, just to get them closer together, so that they just get used to each other.
Another thing I found really interesting was how basically it looks like there's ambassadors for the two.
Yeah.
Ka'ani?
There's Ka'ani.
And the human woman, whose name I forgot.
Yeah. Catherine Hale. So, interesting story about Catherine Hale. She was actually invented for the Pandora Rising mobile game, and then the writer of this comic series actually approached Lightstorm and Cameron about using this character, and so
I thought I recognized that name.
Yeah, they basically elevated this character from side character in the mobile game that we still don't have in America to being this major player in this comic. So I think that's pretty dope. That we don't. I feel like we don't know how much of Avatar canon is set in stone versus how much people who work on these other projects have to work with. And I figured, at least I'd always assumed that so much of the process was okay, we have this story and you bring this story to life. But there's a Dark Horse Comics live stream with the writers and artists of the comic series. And the writer was talking about, hey, I wrote this story and collaborated with Cameron to be okay, yes or no, what can we do, what major events transpired. But he was then given a lot of creative freedom to innovate on how does the story actually play out.
It is actually the same as with what we heard from Toruk, right? Because they also invented several own animal species.
Yes.
That were done greenlit later by Lightstorm.
Mm-hmm. So on one hand, it always feels sometimes it can feel it from the outside. I'm not gonna make any statements for other people, but I always got the impression that it's this very tightly controlled creative ecosystem. But whenever we have collaborative efforts, it always seems very open. So I think it's more it is a very open, creative world. I mean, heck, we're still innovating words into the Na'vi language, and that should have been my first hint. But
well, it's true. I think based off of how Cameron's talked about the language and everything, it seems like he's more trying to create a world for people to be able to play around in.
Mm-hmm.
And in this instance, it's kind of still, since the world is pretty new, there's only a few comics and about 3 hours of movie to talk about it. Then you do have to kind of set up a canon for how the world works, how characters behave, things like that. It does have a lot of parallels with Star Trek, with the races in Star Trek, the Klingon and the Vulcan and all of that. Is that if you have somebody who's in that race, they have a very specific character style that they start with, and so setting that up, I think, is kind of a goal that he has.
Mm.
I didn't know that about the character Hale.
Mm-hmm.
What I found very cool was that well, I don't think we need to warn about spoilers, but that Tsu'tey's family is taken over from the Tsu'tey's past.
Yeah.
Part
Mm-hmm.
to this one. So that's a nice connection there.
Yeah, these are definitely going to be very important characters. It's Artsu, and then there's, I can't remember.
Arvok.
Yeah. Speaking of names, I just want to also call in briefly that Akwe and Ikeni are also referenced by name. They were always characters in the first film, but we recently learned Ikeni's name actually from Pandora Rising.
Mm-hmm.
So Akwe is the leader of the they were called the Dire Horse People of the Plains in the film. There's a guy with a nose spike who was in that montage at the end where they're uniting the clans. And then the Ikran people of the Eastern Sea, the leader, she was all dressed up in red paint. That's Ikeni. And it sounds like they're going to continue to be characters in the Avatar universe.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, also the mentioning of all the when Toto came out, and they introduced all the other clan names. I was not always sure how officially canon that is, but now we get more and more clan names, which is also very interesting to see that it's not just the OmatiCon. The OmatiCon don't represent or speak the whole Na'vi community. So to have then it's the Olangi clan that's mentioned. So that's very I find very interesting to have a glimpse of the widening of the world of Pandora.
Mm-hmm. OmatiCon are the America of Pandora. It's like not technically any more significant, but they're very loud in the canon. Just because we see the most of them.
Yep, true.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the sequels exploring the other clans and sort of just broadening the collective consciousness of how we view the Na'vi clans and how different they can all be.
Yeah. Going back to the what Willem said about people who stayed back on Pandora, I was also under the impression after the movie that only the scientists would stay there. So I never got it in my head that other people like those miners or just people who made their living on Pandora would also stay there because they don't have anything against the Na'vi. So, but then, and I think we got a glimpse of that for the second movie when I think one of the younger actors is supposed to be someone who actually was born and raised on Pandora.
Yeah, yes.
A human. So I think that will be also an interesting fact that once you have people that call this their home, how do you expect them to just leave them or leave the place? Yeah. So
and how they relate to this adopted home and
Isn't that the?
So
isn't there something out there that says basically once somebody's born in a place, that means that it's been colonized? I'm trying to remember.
That sounds like something I've heard before.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I am actually left wondering, like, how was the selection procedure? To say it like that,
Yeah.
like, could just
They're
every
probably spies for the RDA still.
spies for the RDA?
I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised.
but then
Could
every like Sky person just decide for themselves? Do I want to leave? Do I not want to leave? Did the Na'vi pick them? Did what happened there?
I imagine they
Yeah,
had to swear on some condition that they're going to coexist.
The Pledge of Allegiance, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I pledge allegiance to Awa.
Well, that will help with Sky people.
Anything else story-wise? Because I have one thing that I find interesting, because just from the visuals, and I'm interested to hear what Eana has to say about that. There's what is the significance of this? Jake has in his hair. What is that? Like an in German it's Schlagring. What is that in English?
I've been wondering too.
Yeah, the thing that holds his hair in the back of his head.
Yeah.
What is the? Did he have that in the first movie, or
That
what is the
he did not.
significance of that?
I actually checked.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what's it called in English. Knuckle something, like something you put on your hands in order to
Yeah.
beat someone up to pulp.
Knuckles, brass knuckles.
Yeah, right, okay. To be honest, I don't actually. I'm not really sure if that's it. Brass knuckles or whatever.
I doubt it's brass knuckles.
That would be
What
hilarious.
is
like
what,
it,
but
but-
what is it? Yeah.
It would be
But what
Na'vi
is
size,
that?
right? Because his
Yeah,
head is,
it's some kind of hairpin, hair accessory.
But a strange shape.
yeah.
Yo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been wondering too, because it's a dormant
Yeah.
hair dormant which we haven't seen yet, and I was like, what is that? It looks so metallic, but yet, I mean, he's in his avatar form, so I doubt it would be anything human made, and don't know.
Yeah.
But I have one thing to the story in regards to the story. The point you've been mentioning, like the conflict which is already arising again between humans and Na'vi. There's also, I think, not only in the comic but also in the sequels, we can expect some sort of treason, be it humans like spying for the RDA, or right now like Tsu'tey's parents and brother trying to plot against the current Ola Ekdan of the OmatiCon, which is Jake.
The administration. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely some suspense coming, I feel.
They
Yeah.
really are the
God,
America of
you.
the Na'vi, aren't they?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm just going to stay quiet here.
What I found
yeah.
so interesting about seeing something like that from the Na'vi is that, because I always felt in the 10 years that I've been an Avatar fan and have been learning the language, that most people think that Na'vi are just like those tame, loving creatures which just hug trees and, I don't know, dance all day.
Yeah,
I'm
space
not sure.
hippie cat alien.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, they are actually, if this comic is taken to be canon, they are actually capable of treason and some pretty dark shit. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
sure yet if I'm a fan of that, but I kind of like it because it adds to the whole universe.
Right.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they be? And
Yeah.
also, I mean, why are you not okay with it? Wasn't your webcomic going in this direction as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No spoilers
But
there,
you-
but
but you don't accept it when it's canon.
No, I do accept it. I've just been surprised to see it so early on in the comic. Like
Oh, okay.
treason from the Na'vi being picked up by the story writer so early on in the whole
Right.
story, because we have
Yeah.
4 more sequels to expect and hopefully way more novels and comics. So it's been
Yeah.
pretty interesting to me.
Yeah,
actually.
definitely. Yeah, but I mean, it's good to see that they get more. What is that? More character driven and more. That they widen just the horizon of what this people is or are. Yeah. That they are, as you said, not just peace loving people, but I mean, you have it in all native people, that there is conflict and that they have a certain set of rules, and that it's broken, then there needs to be consequences.
Yeah. So it's really not that surprising that there's like, this treachery among the Na'vi. Because James Cameron was actually there's a quote from a very long time ago where he was talking about the sequels, and his plans for the future of the franchise or whatever, and there's a quote something to the effect of like, there will be good leNa'vi, there will be bad leNa'vi.
Right.
And like that was always portraying all the different shades of morality among the leNa'vi was always something that was gonna be there. And this is just the first piece of canon media that we have that really like shows that, I guess. So I guess this is the first time we have like showing, not just telling, but we've been told this for a very long time.
Yeah, it's
Naruto.
It's good. I totally agree that like this, it's really good that people developed their internal model of how the leNa'vi behave, that they're not just, you know, peace-loving forest hippie cat aliens. That they, you know, they are three-dimensional. They have, you know, passions. They can do wrong. And that's just good. Like,
yeah, that's characterization in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I mean, like I do find it interesting that the way that this treachery seems to be evolving is that basically based off of an interpretation of AWA signs, which seems very interesting.
and that's why they have somebody in the position of Tsahek as chief interpreter. Like, you can interpret signs any number of ways, and it's
Watch a single ghost hunting show and you will see this. Interpret anything as anything.
Yep.
I'd rather not watch that, thank you.
So what about the art, Eana? What do you think?
Our correspondent
Obviously speaking, right away I could tell that some panels were referenced from screen caps from the movie and other
even
artwork.
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, but that's still not a bad thing, because you need to look up references in order to be able to draw the leNa'vi like how they are supposed to look. And I can see the difficulties, air quotes, difficulties the artist had when trying to go without any reference, which is perfectly understandable because I struggle with that as well. Overall, I can say I liked the artwork way better than I did in tsu'tey's Path, and I can't really put my finger on it. Maybe it's just the color choices of the background. It's like more complex, more natural feeling to me.
Yes.
There are way more earthy tones, which I really like. I really love earth tones, earth colors. And it's just, I don't know, it looks more true to the movie, what we've seen in the movie, I think, from color choices.
Same with the last page, like those really bright pinks and blues, and like that.
Very
that
dynamic.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And overall, I really liked it. The emotions were really well drawn, and the expressions of the faces, and it's Season it's on.
Yeah,
well
the
done,
artist
artist.
on the live stream, the artist talked about one of the challenges that they had when portraying the leNa'vi was that they don't have eyebrows, except for Jake, because he's got a weird hybrid avatar body, and to convey emotion among the leNa'vi, he had to like really push all of the other physicalities that come with portraying emotion, gesturing, body posture. He really had to go like all in on those. So I feel like that contributes to why, you know, a lot of the panels feel very like expressive or dynamic. Like you could just look at just the art and you can immediately capture the mood of the scene, which is very important in comics, of course, because like each panel is like trying to sell you on what's happening, what's the action that's going on, and like what is like the emotion of the panel.
And for lack of a better word, why you give a shit.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
I felt like this comic made it really easy to connect with the individual faces you would see in the certain panels. So I really liked it.
Very curious to see how this conflict plays out, because yeah, Akwe looks very, or is it Akwe or Arvak? It's Arvak, right?
Arvak.
Yeah.
Arvak's the one within the OmatiCon.
Yeah.
Akwe is the leader of the Horse Clan.
You can tell
who
that
didn't appear in this didn't appear in the comic, but was mentioned.
You could tell that I seriously studied this. But Arvak seems very conflicted. It's going to be very interesting. But no, like you were saying about the expressions, like on the next to last page, the second panel, like that's very expressive.
Yeah.
I will say though, the fourth panel on that same page, that's one of those instances where I'm like, I could tell that there's just a little bit of weirdness with how it's drawn because the hand looks more like a human hand with the ring finger cut off.
Yes.
that bugged me when I read it the first time, but
yeah, but Milte, sorry. I agree that Aardvark adds a lot of interest into this part of the story because he's like he wants to listen to what his brother saw in Jake Sully and the decisions he's made and with fighting for him and for the people. And then there's his father and mother, which tell him, "Yo, son, listen,
yeah,
this is not the way to go. We need to do something." And he's pretty torn, and I really felt for him because he wants to honor his dead brother's memory and stuff like that, and can't really because he also wants to obey his father and wants to please him and like obey his family and stuff. So difficult situation.
I feel like that's something that there's quite a few people out there who can relate to. Not to this degree, of course, but
right.
Wanting to make your family proud is something that is very commonly desired by a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a very kind of universal theme. And themes of family is something that James Cameron really wants to push with the sequels. And so I'm not even remotely surprised that complex familial relationships are making their way into the next Shadow as well.
I mean, that's the whole reason that there's going to be some focus on Jake's family as well.
Yeah, exactly. Any other thoughts on the comic?
Now that we've squeezed a half hour out of it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about, and this is the first issue of a series.
There's always more to talk about.
Just look at previous episodes.
Time.
Yeah.
Let's keep it for next issue.
Yeah. Wait. And a reminder: February 3rd, the next issue arrives. So,
I believe
depending on how you get the comic book, that's anywhere between like this coming week to like 3 weeks from now.
I was gonna say next year or. I think mine's in my mailbox downstairs now.
Well, that's in time.
Well, the first issue, the second issue will probably be here sometime mid-March.
I just want to maybe shout out to my comic store locally here, who even though they're closed due to the pandemic, still are running their business and still are getting comics from the USA, and would have been able to get it to me a few days after the US release, and like except that I was slow with requesting it, but still really good.
Yeah, big shout out to comic book stores. I know, so my local store, very similar situation. They have been continuing to run more or less throughout the pandemic, though in a much more limited capacity. But yeah, when tsu'tey's Path was a thing, I stopped by the comic book store and inquired about it very early in the print run of the series. And he's like, no, I can totally put in a reserve for you, and I'll just order a copy and have it on day of release for you. Come by and pick it up, like whenever you're available. We'll just hold it for you. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. The Sunday before, so the comics come out on like Wednesdays. The Sunday before, I was like, oh crap, I never talked to the guy at the comic store about the next Shadow. So I sent him an email and just saying, hey, I imagine you probably put in hold orders, a little bit in advance, so I'm probably a little bit late, but, there's this new Avatar series. If you could put in an order for me and just let me know, like, when it when it's available, I'll come pick it up. I really appreciate the service I got before. And he responded, "Oh yeah, I remembered that you were into the Avatar comics, so I went and ordered one anyway. It's totally. I already have it on hold. You can come pick it up whenever you want." And so yeah, it's been like a year, 2 years since tsu'tey's Path.
Yeah, something like that.
And he just remembered that there was one Avatar fan who came by and he's interested in this. I'll go ahead and put it a hold in.
There are dozens of us.
You made a very firm impression, I guess.
Well, yeah. Whenever I'd pick up, he'd always ask about like what's the status on the sequels or whatever. Because it's always interesting talking to people who aren't like deeply embedded in the world of like all things Avatar, and like me being somebody who has like their finger on the pulse, knows every news before most channels like know of it, or like we know about anything Avatar like as soon as it happens.
Pretty much.
I had actually like last year with tsu'tey's Path, there was actually apparently also an Avatar The Last Airbender comic coming out, and there was actually some confusion there. I was like, I want the Avatar comic, and he was like, yeah, we have more than one.
Yeah, and they're both by Dark Horse, which is makes it extra complicated.
That's when it's really fun because I don't have a very easy to access comic store, unfortunately, but so I go off of the online site, and anytime you search for Avatar, it's like, okay, here's 30 pages of The Last Airbender, and here's the actual one you're looking for, clear on the last page.
Yeah, and they're straying away from the branding of James Cameron's Avatar, and the series is just being billed as Avatar. So you have to go off of the subheadings of like Avatar: The Next Shadow or Avatar: Tsu'tey's Path.
To be honest, I found like things like James Cameron's Avatar to be like really stupid sounding. So it
was very pretentious, but yes. I feel like it was also a necessity at the time, because like when you're introducing a new IP. Like James Cameron's name behind it was sort of the biggest thing they had going for it, because like the Titanic, okay, people know Titanic, they know the story of the Titanic, that sells itself. But like Avatar, what is this weird new thing that did not exist prior and I have no conception of? Oh, James Cameron's sci-fi film. James Cameron good at sci-fi film. I go see Avatar.
Pretty much.
I give caveman English to people who don't know about Avatar. What does that say about me? I'm a terrible person.
It's okay. We're all terrible here. We're all laughing at it. So like.
Okay.
I wasn't laughing. I'll just use my mute button.
But yeah, it's always interesting talking to people who are like. To sort of see like what is the room temperature awareness of Avatar, like he was aware that there were sequels, but he didn't know when they were happening, how many there were, or like what their status was. So whenever I would stop by and pick up the comic, he would ask if there was any news on that front, because he knew I would know.
And I mean, that's of course like a comic book store owner who is probably like way above the average person in terms of knowing about pop culture.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
But it is really cool because like that crowd tends to be very into world building and how to, flesh out a world that you could tell a whole lot of stories in. But I also find it interesting to talk to people who saw the movie, who really enjoyed the movie, but aren't like in the fandom necessarily.
Yes.
That's always interesting to hear how how they felt about the movie, the conflicts, everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like this without devolving into a let's dunk on people who dunk on Avatar on the internet conversation, there are so many people who saw Avatar in theaters, really liked it, and then just didn't develop a lifestyle around it, so they don't like go on the internet and talk about the movie or whatever, but they really enjoyed it. And whenever you mention it, they're like, oh hell yeah, I really like that movie. They're making sequels? Oh crap, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Like like there's a lot of what I call sleeping Avatar fans, where they just don't know that there's stuff coming, and when they find out, they're going to be thrilled.
They're all in cryo.
Yep. See.
Sleeper cells of Avatar fans.
Yep. See also the flight of passage line times. See also.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of fans.
Speaking of fans, that's an amazing segue that we just stumbled into. Speaking of fans, so Kalutral held the first intended to be annual OmatiCon. In addition to a digital gathering of the clans for everyone to hang out and chat, we had Avatar-themed games like Quiplash and Kahoot trivia. We also had some celebrity guests, including Ty Ruben Ellingson, who is a art director on the first Avatar film, and Paul Fromer, who came and gave us a really cool lecture on a new way of language learning that's being hotly discussed in language learning circles. Both presentations were super cool, and we got a lot of really cool behind the scenes bits of information from Ty Ruben. It was one of the coolest things I've ever been part of, like without a doubt.
Same.
And I will also mention that, as it was for everybody, including the admin team, that was kind of a surprise addition to the schedule.
Yeah, he confirmed at like the last minute, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, pretty much. Huge shout out to Mako, the whole thing. Also,
yeah, Mako's put in a lot of work into Kalutral and all associated like events and acts, I guess.
Yeah,
like he's really been putting in work to unite the Avatar community. Hats off to that. And also putting together OmatiCon, which was just a very nice way to kick off the year, hanging out with fellow nerds.
Oh yeah. Also a huge shout out to our own Tomke, because he really did a lot with the German group, because we had two different OmatiCons going on at the same time. We had one that was set up for American time and one that was set up for a more European time. And so he did a lot of work towards making sure that the the German one went very well. So credit where credit is due.
And the event closed with a synced viewing of the film, which I hadn't seen in a very long time, and it was very cool to watch the film alongside other people who enjoy it, and just hearing commentary about like, oh, I really like this scene, or like this is like, or just hearing what other people like and get out of the film.
It's kind of like a director's commentary, but instead of the director, it's a bunch of fans.
Yeah, it's a bunch of nerds who know obscure trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but speaking about the celebrity guests we had on OmatiCon, I really enjoyed the talk by Ty Ruben and also by Kayopo Kesempilte. What I really loved about the talk that Ty Ruben gave was also the very inspirational stuff that he said. First of all, it was very, very cool to get such a look behind the scenes from his perspective. When it comes to designing stuff and like the amp suits and machinery that we saw in the movie. And his art, by the way, is very awesome. If you don't know it, you should check it out. So I wouldn't say he's one of my idols, but I definitely look up to him for what he achieved, what he has done for the movie and for the universe, and also for the talk he gave us. So that was personally my highlight, I would say. Of course, it's difficult to compare his talk to the one Kayo Paul gave us, because it's been two completely different topics.
Right.
So I don't want to compare them, but if I had to choose...
It doesn't need to be a competition, but yeah.
Yeah, but if I had to choose, I would pick the one by Ty Ruben. And it's just maybe just because it's like this artist kind of thing that plays into that, because it just made my artist heart very, very happy to be able to listen to him. And
yeah, sure, understandable.
I mean, I really liked Paul's talk. just to get the opposite opinion in. The talk was about indeed new way to learn languages, and in particular apply to Na'vi. So let's say that you want to you have some beginners who want to learn Na'vi. They know like some words but not many words, and you want to like learn them new words and expressions through context. Then the way to do that is to like speak slowly, but also explain what you're saying by use of like visual aids, or like explaining with other words what you mean. Sometimes, very sometimes given English translation maybe, which means that basically everyone who has the basic knowledge can follow, and you can of course adapt that to every level of learning. And I think this talk really drove home that Karjo Paul, I mean, he's called Karjo not for nothing, is just a really good teacher. Mm-hmm. He's able to do that kind of, to do that, to just explain things basically in the Na'vi language with aids and make it easy to follow.
No, that's what I remember from my days taking Italian. That's basically how we started. Like, we started by learning how to, say my name is, and then what's your name, and that's exactly what happened. It was all visual aids. There were no English translations given.
Yeah, it's something that maybe gets a bit lost also in like with Discord. Usually people are in voice chat. I mean, that's way better than text chat, obviously. But I cannot point at my head if I want to say like re'o, head.
Right.
That entire visual dimension gets lost. So maybe that's something like I think there was also some heated discussion afterwards, and also in the questions like how can we apply this to our learning setting.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's easier now to do so because I know Discord itself has video chat capability. Finally,
video chatting capabilities in groups is becoming more and more of a thing. If it's one thing the pandemic has innovated or accelerated the innovation of, it's video chat spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, maybe we need to do video lessons at some point.
Mm-hmm. We will have to when the sign language comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is going to learn that? Oh no.
I'm actually thinking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I know I am. I've already relegated myself to this fact.
I'm probably saying no now, but when the first words will come out and the first dictionaries will come out, you will know I will learn it anyway. Probably.
Yeah,
that's pretty much where I'm at.
It's like even more of a niche, right? Mm-hmm. Because like I'm learning a conlang. Okay, sure. I'm learning a conlang from like a particular 2009 movie that 100 people at most know about. I'm not a movie, but the language.
Yeah.
Versus I'm learning the sign conlang from a movie. It's like it's even a step further into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm learning the sign language of a conlang from a sci-fi film. It is about the nerdiest thing you can say.
Yep. You're in good company.
Yeah, no. I'm obviously not speaking with any sort of dismissal to this group or our listeners who are very much also in the same camp of, hell yes, I want to learn the sign language of the conlang from this sci-fi franchise.
Who wouldn't, really?
Exactly. I don't understand that,
Looping back to Ty Rubin's presentation, just coming at this from my perspective, I'm always amazed how many parallels there are between what I hear about the development of Avatar stuff and the development of video games. Like, there's so many parallels between the two. And, I mean, Avatar is a marriage of a lot of, digital simulation technologies and using them to tell a story. Well, the story's not as interactive, but there's still a lot of the same principles. And just hearing the way that Ty Rubin was approaching his creative craft and how the kinds of things that James Cameron was doing as a director to sort of guide the creative teams just really rhymed with a lot of experiences that I've been part of, or I know happen in other sectors of the game development community. And it was just hearing that stuff and just being like, thinking like, oh crap, I can like apply some of this wisdom. Was just really cool.
It's true. I mean, that tends to be the goal for most of those, isn't it? Is to tell a good story, but in order to tell a good story, you need set pieces.
Yeah.
And
also just,
there you go.
I felt like what was especially important was the focus on detail of like how people interact with these set pieces. It's not just like, here's the set piece, but it's like, here's how the actors relate with this set piece in the space that they are in. So when he talked about how everything was always pushing for scale, this is something I've noticed every time I rewatch the film. I notice it more and more. James Cameron's camera direction is so good at selling you the sense of scale on Pandora, because he will always show a person next to a like vehicle or like something that gives you a sense of scale of the vehicle, and then that vehicle is then juxtaposed against something that's even larger, and that larger thing is juxtaposed against something that's even larger. And so you can be like, okay, here's my... You establish a sense of scale, and then you use those like sequentially to establish larger scales.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's
if you look for it, you can't unsee it once you know about it.
Right. Yeah.
It's a technique that honestly is not used nearly as often as I would personally like to see.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to tell, like there's also the thought that, these people have been working with this stuff for hours upon hours. So, that the editors or whoever may think, it's unnecessary to show this. But for people who are just watching it, you don't have that idea. You don't have that sense of scale innately, so you have to it has to be shown to you.
Yeah,
I think that was this was also very important because the movie was intended to be 3D, and you need some sort of scale to
exactly
feel like being part of this world and being able to like almost touch this physicality of this fictional world. So
exactly, and that again, that's sort of where it all just wraps in together, where the experience of Avatar is not too unlike a game because it's meant to be so immersive to draw you into a world where you feel like you're part of it. And yeah, selling scale is absolutely critical for that.
I feel that was really the strength of Avatar 1 for me personally, the world building and the drawing into the world aspect. I mean, just very roughly said, the fights, I really don't care so much in Avatar 1.
Right.
And the story is, it's nice, but that was not for me the main draw. For me, the main draw was always the fact that you get drawn into the movie and that you get like this feeling that you are actually there, and there's like so much world building going on that you feel a part of it.
This is why we're friends, Willem.
Yep.
Whoa.
That's why the world of Avatar at Disney has gone so well. It's because that's what people tend to remember from the movie.
That's your primary verb for interacting with Avatar. Is like it's always like enter the world of Avatar. Like that's literally all people want to do. Is you relate to Avatar by being like part of it. I feel like that's the disconnect that a lot of people have, where it's like Avatar had no impact or whatever because like they're measuring it by like a metric of how a lot of other movies have been judged.
Yeah.
How many names can you mention?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
maybe not so
many. If the names are the thing that you got out of Avatar, then like I don't think we saw the same movie.
Yeah. You watched the one by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
You watched the wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah.
But to go even further off topic, maybe like I am actually interested to see how James Cameron will do that in the sequels, because it seems to me that like if you're on a sequel, it becomes somewhat harder to get into this like new fascinating world building experience. So,
yeah, the shock.
I'm sure that they are doing that. Yeah, exactly, the shock value.
But I will say this: based off of some interviews that I've seen, he's planning on basically just exploring other parts of the world and fleshing out the world as a whole, because like, I mean, most sci-fi, and you could see it everywhere, but Star Wars is kind of the quintessential one. Most sci-fi you have a planet and it's one thing. Hoth is snowy. Dagobah is swamps. But
SBPs, single biome planets.
Yeah, but Pandora is Earth-like. It has biomes throughout. It's not just jungle. That's what everybody equates with it because that's what we've seen mostly. But we've also seen that there's plains, there's coastlines. If you go ride Flight of Passage, you see coastlines.
We got 18 seconds of them.
Yep, exactly. It's a nice little teaser. Yep. As another side note, I'm very happy to see that he is still shooting it in 3D. Because...
Of course.
I do think 3D cinema is not used well until you see something like Avatar, because it's used for sensationalism, and then you see something like Avatar in 3D and you're like, oh, the best way I could describe it is I watched it in 3D and then I went back and watched my extended cut, and even though the extended cut is longer, has more info and all of that, it still felt like something was missing.
Yes.
Snerovik.
I'm really hoping they relaunch the first film in 3D in theaters, because I never experienced it in 3D.
If you're ever down in Georgia.
Yeah, I know you've made this offer.
I always make this offer to everybody. If you're down in Georgia, hit me up and I will set it up for you, because I think everybody should experience this.
Yeah, after the pandemic, maybe.
Yeah.
So we had actually more topics.
Yes. I just want to catch. Does anyone have anything else to say about OmatiCon?
Yep.
That was what we were talking about, wasn't it?
I hope very much, that's what I wanted to say, that we will see more of these events in the future, and this won't be the last one.
Also, I totally snubbed of my fellow co-host Eana on this, who she held a draw along where she taught folks how to draw Na'vi faces.
Yes.
And it was awesome.
It's okay.
I feel like a jerk now.
It's not mention worthy.
It is mention worthy.
It's perfectly fine.
It is.
People are. I still see people sharing artwork in SEO referencing that workshop, and they're like, okay, I'm going to apply this and share this work that I tried to do based off of what I learned. It was really impactful for a lot of people who want to draw, and I don't want to minimize that at all.
Thank you.
Also, I find it very inspiring to just see actual artists at work, as in not only Eana, but also I'm just drawing something with my drawing tablet and it's mediocre. And then in the meantime, you see that someone makes a complete drawing in 10 minutes with color and shading, and there's still stuff to criticize about it. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, whoa, hard eyes. You see, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Watching anybody who's really good at what they do, do their thing, is always fascinating.
Yeah, very much.
That's why sports are a thing. That's why esports are becoming a thing. If you're really good at it, people like to watch it.
I'm just very grateful for everybody who joined and actually listened to my rambling and even draw something. That really overwhelmed me for a second to see so many drawings being sent in. And it made me very, very happy. And I can't really deal with praise, so if I could blush, I would be blushing right now. And I'm just very, very grateful. So thanks to everybody who was there.
And thanks to you.
Yeah, you.
All right, any other OmatiCon things?
This is going to be fun to edit.
This is going to be great to edit. All right, and final topic before we get into practice. We've had some language updates from Karibal. There was a blog post in December, but we've also received several other pieces of information via email in the month since we last had a podcast. So I'm just going to group this under new language developments. Let's talk about them.
I've lost track about everything which was added.
same, and I didn't read the blog post.
I have the blog post open and ready.
Nothing did
Okay,
change.
Yeah.
I read the blog post
Professional
like
podcast.
2 months ago, and completely forgot what was on it.
I know
because I remember
I
remember at the time there was like there wasn't really anything there that was like, oh, this is like totally new information for me. This is just like, oh, this is a clarification on something I kind of already had an assumption about.
Yeah, but that's great, right? Because, so, general background, many of the things that we know kind of, but we don't know all the full details. And of course, we want to know all the details. So especially with these things that are like from way, like in 2010 or 2009, people actually figured out organically. And for many of these things was never actually officially confirmation by Cryopal.
Mm-hmm.
And this blog post provides a few of these confirmations, which I also like. So for example, one of the things here is like a long-standing open question, or like confused question more, was like, if I want to say something like, I have an example sentence here, well, now futa srivel, I want to dance. There was always the idea that you would need the Eve, like the subjunctive infix in sreu there, because it's a parallel structure to oh, and now srivel. But I think like almost everyone in the community was like, this is a weird rule. We don't actually know it for sure. It's weird, and now it was actually like this resolves this question. I think in a very nice way. And that's more of these. So I like these kind of blog posts with clarifications.
Because like, especially for someone like, someone who's coming into it new, someone like myself, like you come into it, it's been established for a few years, and there's the blog posts coming out, so it's easy to just assume that all of this stuff is just set in stone, 100%. But when back in the beginning of this community starting up, that was not the case at all. Everybody was basically just dissecting the film and any bits and pieces we could.
I feel like a lot of the recent innovations in the language have been us just asking to clarify something that was never really codified as rule, but was just like tradition for a very long time. And no one's like, oh yeah, this is just how we do it. And someone's like, is there a source on that? And then like we all like flip through our notebooks and like, there isn't.
Yeah,
you should ask about that.
One of the first things I learned when I came into the community was of course the L and T endings. And for the T ending in particular, it was always in the learning materials, it's always said back then, it is for consonant endings and T is for vowel endings. You cannot say with a consonant ending with T, which is false. And I think we even knew that at that point. But that was like so hammered into everyone because in the beginning we thought that was the case. And then it's really good to get actually the confirmation that no, what you thought was actually incorrect. Also, nume.
What? What do you mean?
Still traumatic.
Damn it. I'm having more
insert on
flashbacks.
speech about Nume here.
Yeah, but especially with the endings, I could understand it at the time because it is actually easier to teach just to say it is for consonants, T is for vowels. Because now, we've seen it the last few weeks. We have then people who do create elaborate tables with all the possibilities that the endings now can take, and it is overwhelming when you are a beginner and look at this table. It is totally overwhelming. Instead of just saying, okay, for the beginning, just use T with vowels and eat with consonants.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I could understand it. But
actually, you can use T actually almost, if not everywhere, right? So you can just say
that's
always use T.
Yeah, that's why I say T, just use T and ru. And
yeah, but it sounds so weird. It's rali, not ralti.
Yep.
Well, as long as we understand each other, you come from the western part, I come from the middle part, and it's all fine.
I mentioned that kind of
Western
dialect.
European Na'vi right there.
No, but imagine that like we might be getting dialects in the next movie, and then the dialects are going to be, let's make the rules for the endings even more complicated for all the dialects we have.
Please don't.
Oh,
No.
brain explosion.
There's part of me that's like, darn it, more to learn, and then there's the other part of me that's like, yay, more to learn.
Yeah.
True.
In Eana Mokri, ma is an adposition.
No.
What?
Oh. Oh.
Stop.
Oh no.
Zack and Sira.
I might need to cut here.
That idea is out in the world now. Look what you've done.
If I could make one change to the Na'vi language, it would be ma is an adposition.
No, I'm actually
Ma
with
is an
you on
preposition,
that.
but you cannot use se and to as postfixes for extra confusion.
Yeah, of course.
What about if you make ya another possible vocative case? So you could say
leNa'vi.
I can.
ja Pamarik.
Yeah.
Pamarik,
Ja,
ja.
blooms.
Pamarik, ja.
I see. That's the southern Na'vi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all.
yeah, y'all.
Oh boy, no.
Well,
No, I actually,
I mean,
I agree with you, Palm. Like that's what I would honestly. I'm surprised that it's not like that because that's kind of almost a natural progression.
We'll see about that.
Awe ma.
yeah.
Nitty-dimmer.
What I found interesting about this blog post is that you can see that the language is still developing, and for some of those, quote unquote, rules that have never been specifically written down, is that I have the feeling sometimes Kariu Pao also needs to write that down for himself to come to a decision and to something that he stands behind. Case in point, the T ending, where he used at some point kifkeit and now is after 10 years says, no, this doesn't sound right to me anymore. It's K8 or KAD, right? So that's what I found interesting.
I think I will never get these endings right for the diphthongs.
No, just use T.
Yeah, just use T. No! Can you use T on literally every word?
Yep.
Yeah.
Olo T?
Yeah.
Because you're adding a
Oh.
new syllable.
It's
Okay.
D is a fully
And ru?
Olo,
Can you use ru on everything?
Strane.
Yeah.
Yeah, ru I know, because that's a new exception, right? But
Yeah.
can you use ru on everything? Also on
Antikru.
consonant endings? Angstsikru is not, I
No.
don't think so, right?
No, that's the one thing that's not.
Macario Paul.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, also again from a learner's perspective, I think my reasoning behind using D rather than eat is that D is more noticeable because of the unreleased.
Which is bad,
right?
because if I forget the T ending, which happens often, I can just if it was this vowel ending, I can just kind of make a T behind it when I still remember it.
Yeah.
Or you can just say, oh, you just didn't hear the T.
I definitely said it.
It was
As
just
long as you
unreleased.
don't-
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
As long as you don't spill the tea, it's
But
Yeah,
real
exactly.
languages have all kinds of dialects.
Herangam.
Real languages have all kinds of dialects where you can't hear words or sounds because they're dropped. Think about the Boston accent. Yeah, we turn all our R's into just A's.
I'll also do 8.
It wouldn't shock me. There's somebody out there.
So okay, the discussion was about the modal verbs. Then what was the next one?
modal verbs, we also had the pronouns. Snow, bow.
Po and snow. Well, that gets confusing for me. So
Yeah, well,
We're not going to talk about this. This confuses me.
no.
Be
No,
gone.
but Plumes, you actually submitted like another email with clarification request, right? Or was that different?
About Po and snow? No.
I remember that we had a discussion about it like a month ago or so, and then I forgot what the outcome of the discussion was.
About
Aren't
Po
we well
and snow?
prepared?
No.
Yeah, well, no, about snow. If snow can attach to certain types of if it can go to the main clause or something.
No, that's not me. No. I
That was
stay
not
away
you.
from Po and snow.
Okay, great. And I talk to someone else. Whoever,
Yeah, I
if you're
think that
listening to
was
this
someone else.
podcast and you remember this discussion, please let me know so I
Yeah.
can recollect that.
It could be Valmy, but I'm not sure. Then we had final stops when they are it's just a grammatical.
Yeah, I felt that answer was just like do whatever is natural and it will be approximately what you should do, which I like because that is natural. And then the fpap one.
I love that word.
Well,
Fpap is still
Fpap.
such a funny word. Fpap,
Pop.
fpap, fpap.
I love that. That's the word for pound.
Yeah, it's comic speech. Like
Pop.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
You
beautiful.
give someone
No, that-
like a
That
is it like a
Go ahead.
head bang or something. It's like pop.
Yeah.
Oh,
Say something
headbang.
stupid.
It's like
pop.
fpap.
But no,
Did I hear an unreleased T?
the first one.
Yes, of course.
The first one regarding neo, that was actually something that I had sent in asking about that because I was curious if you could make modals into causative forms while being used as a modal verb, which turns out you can't. But that was that was kind of that was interesting because I that was one of those things that just I don't know how often that actually comes up, so I don't think it was ever really asked.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. It was one of these questions where, like, I saw the question, I was like, okay, this is so far out there, that it will never happen in practice. And then, I mean, when I actually got the answer, I was like, okay, yeah, it would actually be useful. So it's good that it's clarified.
Well, and like,
And I think it also made like was the start of the second question, right, about the subjunctive infix.
yeah, it's like because I mean, nobody can create a language 100% from the get-go. Sometimes you just have to have people use it and see, oh, here's
Beta
a
testers.
really weird, yeah, basically you're beta test the language essentially. And you can see that English did not have beta testers by how ridiculously convoluted it is.
Well,
Natural
spelling,
languages
yes.
don't have beta testers. They just change over time.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, English spelling is ridiculous. We all know that. But English as a language makes kind of sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, because I don't know if we had this discussion before, but I know I've talked to people about this. English is like a hodgepodge of so many different languages that it actually, in a very strange way, makes it an easier language to learn, an easier second language to learn because it just has so many pieces of other languages in it.
Yeah, it's Esperanto, but like less organized.
Yeah, it's Esperanto, but not created.
All the way on the other side of the organizedness spectrum. Somehow we got completely off topic again, of course.
That's
How
this
did that
podcast.
happen?
I've just come to expect this.
We actually had
Eana Mokri,
I'm the host, and I'm just letting
off-topic
this roll.
podcast.
We actually had some more language updates, right? We had the A is now officially intransitive, which is great. One down. I think there's something like 12 to go.
Yep. Someday we'll get that list cleared out.
Hopefully.
God, I want to know how KP like internally organizes his language.
Yes, please. His original files that you sent to Lightstorm, there must be some document with grammar descriptions that he wrote.
Right, but
Right?
no,
That's
what
the
I want to
thing.
see is like even just his internal stuff. Like, does he have like a spreadsheet with all the vocabulary? Like, how does he organize everything?
I've no idea. That would be a great thing to ask at some point.
Yeah.
Next to OmatiCon.
If you really want to kind of surprise him, ask him about Barsoomian. Because he also
No one ever asked me about Barsoomian.
True.
because he also created that one.
Yeah.
But I think he also himself shifted over to community-made resources for several things. So, for example, I think he now considers the leNa'vi to be like the official grammar description.
Yep.
Also, like he talked about Plume's annotated dictionary, that he really likes it, and I would almost be certain that he uses it to search for examples.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, of course.
I've never heard of this child of mine.
That's good. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah, I think
And it's nice to know that those community-based reference books and lessons and whatever is used. He also mentioned in the talks that he, I think from Neytiri, those sentence lessons. So it's good to know that those community-based materials are being used and accepted.
even
It's like a
Palm got a mention too with Nassel.
yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's just a little nag that you should continue working on it.
Yeah, I know.
Nag. What do we say? Stop.
Pap. Yeah, we are pounding on Pamarik to continue working on it.
Bam.
I propose changing Pamarik's name to Fpaparik.
Okay. Kahanga.
Okay.
I believe didn't I want to say that Cardigan Powell said that the annotated dictionary should become the official one.
Yeah, I agree. When can we have it?
Well, once you make it digital, Marvel.
Yeah, I'm working. So maybe that's like an announcement. Then I'm trying to make it. The thing is, annotated dictionary is written in LaTeX code, which for people who don't know it is basically like a giant Word file but different. So it's a bit hard to search in, right? So you have a PDF, you can search in it.
Yeah.
But like, there's no website where you can type a word and you get like the entire super nice definition for it. So I'm actually like working together with Plumes to try to make that happen, but it's not so easy.
Nice.
Eventually there will be something.
Yeah, LaTeX is really good for
hopefully.
making a final document, but if you're trying to use LaTeX for anything else, have fun.
Yeah, it's hard to pass. That's the problem.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
You
did
use
all
the
the
tools
work.
that are
I'm
available.
just
I wish I had the knowledge for this whole computer and programming stuff, but LaTeX is as far as I can go.
I'm sure that even if I spend like days or weeks working on this, I will still have like 1% of the time you spend to actually make the LaTeX files in the first place. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we can collaborate on it.
Sure, we still have time.
I'm already a fan.
There's always time.
Oh no, we shouldn't have told this to people because now everyone will be.
Cut that out.
Cut it out.
Hashtag no pressure.
Edit this entire section out. Nobody can know about the projects we've abandoned.
Oh man,
No, it actually might be good because, you know, if there's pressure that actually happens. The same thing happened with Recunha over the Christmas break, right? Eana wanted an editor, and now there's suddenly an editor. That wouldn't have happened otherwise.
I mean, not gonna lie, if you want to talk projects that have been abandoned, I've got a massive list.
Who doesn't?
But we're not going to talk abandoned projects. Instead, we're going to segue immediately to the Na'vi conversation practice that we cap off every episode with.
Oh.
As a reminder, it's been a very
That's-
long time since a lot of us have spoken Na'vi to each other. We've probably been practicing on our own. I'm not going to police this, and I don't quite frankly care. But we're going to try right here. And because this episode has gone on long enough. So, does anybody have any prompts?
Fap.
Pop.
All right, Bop is the prompt.
Keomum tinta petelateri atari le'ualu fpap tsunoe pivlte.
Frauzo. Frauzo. Sngemai. Ioe. Pivot en leNa'vi. Frauzo.
Nyäsig. Fpap set. Ting med kjurut
Säg så nu.
Fpap.
Säg så ett an.
Set fraporu smon ral le'ualu fpap.
Fap.
Fpap. Feu silsankelu. I suta sene spil futa ioet sun pivot now fwen nit an luke fois pivot an fpap sig.
Skekking Lesar sick.
Basically, fkeitog deri fpapse stru.
Sru.
Srana sru.
O mummal futa fkeitog tsali ualu sru sle tsola wadral.
Angzik Wainfleety Angzikil Wainfleety Sorolu.
Srana.
Ngezika li'u. Oemum.
Siroxrak?
Sran.
Kehe? O sene frivel. O frivel set.
Sru
O
Lu kem spang fa Venu fu
spang fa fenu?
Lungesik fuas latsu.
Sru alu.
Strane. Sola.
Skana splat.
Kola well nakariupol.
Strane.
Ha Zunfko sru uot fa fois fpap. Kefjak?
Srana.
Strane.
Fpap de srivu.
Tsaulu auvea alo a staunwel tsaile uti.
Deri fois spang Wainfleetit.
Kehe. Fpap ftes rivu.
Sapo tesiet au.
Wainfleet?
Srana.
Ningaisrak?
Srana. Na quaritz se grace.
Futa Gracie se quaritch tiet au omumuel sle fois Wainfleet tiet au nemun lu fumaun weru.
Srane aminan sa Amatsunan sa
Yes, is it up.
Srane.
Also dit ensi.
lì'fya zun po tivet au.
Ningai mai kemu well.
Pefja srau nu a tutet zun tivet au.
Srau nu a tute. Strane, Geomum.
Slanewivomum.
Slane. Hayareli Tarusi. Hayarel Asrik Daddy. Whoa.
Ja, ha, sit.
Weru. Daddy Hayapu Hayarel Arusik. Lu Aya Dipaum.
Strane, Milte.
Strane.
Sla Zeneau I Wang Bive.
Strane, Mawepeko.
Stranenge.
Pivang.
Okay.
Ayate Baum, Holate Ein.
Ra'a Mawepe. Aupe.
Karape, Strak.
Fpap de Pive.
Teu.
Pere.
Ngal Nye Kalkuti Ska, Strak.
Okay. Kenne always give a Kelkut way. Tsatseng me Zenewe Pive.
Kenne Pive Wurpa.
Luke Kelku Ketsunwe Pive. Ketsunwe Rive. Ste Pive.
Fittipenk o Hackney Eats le tsyulu le trr fi
Le
podcast
uvan.
i mi.
Strane.
Stran.
Luletartar.
Fko zene skrekeng CV ne ul.
Taluna fi podcast till Nalu Eana Mokri.
Pahem Soli.
Behem len.
Fap!
Bap strak.
Fpap an.
Besul bap beuti.
Loho.
Pesef Pap.
Mariana, ukes rak.
Frauzo.
Frozo.
Sitzan.
Ja, kalku mi skateboard
Strane.
strak.
Strane. Toke Kutimi. Fitzeng Frozo.
Saulamu kra nye mipa kalku. Mipa kalkuti newin ska.
Keneo Tsakem Sivi.
Sunuweru Meleu Alu Mif Ketok.
Lungai ke fjak.
Wow.
Lungesik na au.
Ke polt leNa'vi anker.
Wedding thing.
Verinetang.
Pot eni navi sle frakrkin wel skrekengit ne ul.
Strane. Sle aungapelt ne inglise ankers ha kaum hayalo tsunoe skrekking sivin ul.
Strane. Ni navi na au.
No.
Pamerik pult esan I wel ngati kami ema frato. Ulte fit ulu Eana Mokri. Taluna fpap leNa'vi na au. Oke sifun nga pifelt leNa'vi tsakr hunko.
Heil Pamstrak.
Gefpil vel futa lusel sana sefpil sle tunsli fu. Oh no. Kaum Me fpap a tsy'tey.
Strane.
Strane.
Avatar vospitzinge.
Kau krketsu noe siferog tsu'tey fpap ha oe pult esan fpap a tsy'tey.
Strane. Tsauto vospitsing deng. Lu.
Zea alostra?
Zea alo tsunslu. Zea alo podcastia kolan lì'fya.
Strane.
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 Zea.
Zea srei.
Allo a ze. Zea pum a ze.
Ote tsakr hap a sien tsa hap tsun lifu fuat kakeng lì'fya tila englise.
Strane. Sivako. All right. Well, what do we talk about in English?
Stop, Pamerik. I cannot speak so fast.
Please repeat.
Do you have well-being?
Yes.
Yes, sir. You should.
Yes.
Na'vi accent.
Accent leNa'vi.
Well done. Fi'ulu jaja ehna au. Keubumel ei set mi aua tute staum fuke slet o aua tute staum sakr onel pivot ene san night oa.
Hitoa ma Eana Mokri. Puutsteramuel.
Mi persistit för podcast hier och hab au väl och ja ehna au. Siltsan sunu veru nit an.
Ke lolatem.
Strane.
Sunuero podcast.
Slä. Lejatem.
Passion laratem.
Lejatem.
Passion lejatem.
Passion?
Strane. Php lejatem.
Boom. Pedot I wing leNa'vi. Now.
Det är för min grej.
Strane.
Ute Siena hap med pailt I wing the English. Det gekking.
Spil väl fotal siltsana
Det gekking CV.
I lapo pult sar ara.
Rondstrelling op. Podcast ti lì'fya. Kesempelt fko sjau tsa podcasteru the blue voice. The pink voice. The skin color. Otet saker pult essa. Goed kan heen.
Katu ke layo. Wake doing well to how the way.
Strane. Via setkin mipa zea mipa straight a zee.
Strane.
Mipa sefpil.
Sivako ma Willem.
Spilval futa sistetam, fume sistetam la mu aungaru sefpil. Sateri. Sle ketsuno epifelt eset taluna sene livoho.
Oh.
Ingen kefja.
Ingen shit.
Spilval futa weye eltu pesjor.
Werulujajaj.
Weru nitank.
Nakelo de auto.
Eltu kangangang. Hasesrak.
Sranerut.
Strane. We are approaching a record recording time of 2 hours.
Yeah.
We gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
On a special debut episode, season 2, Eana Mokri,
Yeah,
2 hours, too fast.
We had 3 months without episodes, so we couldn't just cut them up and then retroactively date them.
Oh, well, it would be par for the course for us
Date the next shadow
release
one
content.
to,
Release content from a month ago.
We can make 3 parts out of it.
Date the next shadow one September.
I said multiple times that the next issue of the next shadow is coming out in 4 days.
No, we can just cut that out.
For
Next shadow's coming out in 4 months.
The next episode will come out in 22 days.
It's just the really obvious AI voice.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had Google read it.
Maiwa. This episode.
Anyway, we're going to wrap this episode up before it actually does hit the 2-hour mark. Thank you very much for tuning in. Irayo Angadu. Hialavai. I don't know what happened to my voice right there. I'm sorry. Hialavai.
Hialavai.